All right, I think that's better. Okay, I'm going to be interviewing my dad, David Delaney, and I'm going to be interviewing him. I've been wanting to do this for a couple of years, and I'm going to ask him 10 questions. Well, the first one's not really a question, it's just tell us about how you were born.
I was born in a house in Necedah, July 4th, 1951. My mom was very sick when I was born. She almost died. I almost died, but we both survived. And they had to lock my brothers and sisters in a room because I was born in a house. And when they let them out, my brother looked at me and he said, "You locked us in the bedroom for that?" That's a true story.
How many brothers and sisters?
Well, let's see. I have 2 brothers and I have 4 sisters. I have a half sister and 6 half brothers.
Wow. Okay, what were you like in high school?
In high school, I played basketball, played football. I wasn't a real scholar. But my senior year, I won a lot of awards. Played on a championship basketball team, championship baseball team. I was involved in a lot of things in school.
Were you popular?
Yes, I think I was.
In Necedah?
Well, that's not too hard to
So many people were in your class?
30.
30? Oh,
Yeah.
okay. That's about the same that was in my class. I think we might have had 38 in ours.
Yeah.
All right. You're not as long-winded as I was expecting you to be.
I'm not done yet.
Just getting warmed up. Okay. When you think about a fork in the road in your life, what was it and why did you choose that particular path?
Fork in the road in my life. Well, I think it was when I was in the Air Force and I was stationed in Adana, Turkey. That forgot the name of the Air Force Base. But I was challenged to accept the Lord as my personal Savior, and I did that. And I didn't do it perfectly because I had a lot of bad years, did a lot of bad things after I did that. But I was challenged to go to Bible college. I went to Bible college and graduated in 1979. It was Incirlik Air Force Base. No, I got it. But it's been a rough road. I made a lot of bad decisions, bad choices in my life, but it's because of the Lord that I'm still here and still moving forward. And another big fork in the road was in my life when I was later on in ministry, where I really realized in my life that my life wasn't all about me. It was about helping other people. And that's something that I try to do the best that I can.
Yeah, it's a game changer for sure. When you worry about more people or someone else other than yourself. It's something that we all need to learn,
Well,
and it seems like we learn that when we're older.
Yeah. I think in our society too, that we live in a society these days where everything is about me. And when people make mistakes and bad things happen, they always want to blame somebody else. And the biggest influence in my life has always been my mother.
That's not even that's later, but yeah,
Okay.
Go ahead. That's actually going into who growing up, who inspired you the most.
That was definitely my mother. Jokes me think about it, but she raised 7 kids all by herself. And it's like I tell people, I always thought that I was her favorite, but I bet you my brothers and sisters thought the same thing. There's so many things. She died some years ago, but it's like she still lives because of all the things that she taught me and inspired me to do. And like I said, I haven't always done it the best, but she said, if you mess up, fess up. And that's one of the things that she taught me that I really learn from her, because when I mess up, I don't blame other people. I live up to what I did wrong. But she was a great lady. Great lady.
I think that all of us grandkids feel the same way about Grandma too, that we were her favorite because she just had that thing about where she made each and every one of us always feel special. If you came over to visit her, there was a special dinner or lunch, and you know, she would, when I lived in Stevens Point and I'd come for dinner, like if she knew that Ashley was coming with me, she would make chop suey because Ashley loved the chop suey, or
Oh, that was good stuff.
yeah, we all loved her chop suey, or she would have the pie or the dessert that she knew that you loved, and like, here, and I know Tony likes these bars too, and I think she just had that thing about her that made us all feel so special no matter who we were. And it's like, I'm Grandma's favorite. No, I am. No, I am. We all thought we were
Yeah.
Grandma's favorite.
She was a great lady.
Was.
Still is.
She is.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what happy memory will you treasure forever? There's probably more than one, but
I think the birth of my children. When you were born, that was a very special time for us. She was the bicentennial baby of Minot, North Dakota. We even got to be on television. And she was very smart. And
was? No, just kidding. Just kidding.
No, but you learned really quick, and I used to read stories to you, and then every once in a while I'd change the story, even when you were a little very young, and you just you'd say, "Daddy, that's not right." But you learned to talk at a very early age. And when Priscilla was born, she was very special. She was born on Easter Sunday in Texas, and she was a very typical middle child, but she was just full of love. And then when Tony was born, of course, he was my son, and we played sports together, and I taught him a lot of things about sports. And one of the proud times with him was when he went out for his first Little League team. They had well over 100 kids to separate on all these other teams, and he was the number one draft choice in the whole league, and that really blessed me. He was really good in sports. It's a real blessing. I think graduating from college was a big deal for me too. And
I vaguely remember that when you
Yeah.
graduated from college. It was 2 or 3.
yeah, it was in 1979 I graduated. I've had a lot of happy moments. My life has been blessed. And
I feel like you focus on the happy things. You don't really dwell on the bad, and that's what keeps you going. Because right now it'd be really easy for all of us to focus on a lot of bad things, and
Yeah.
we choose to try not to.
Yeah.
All right, we're getting close to the end. It's very quick. What amazes you about society nowadays?
well, what really amazes me about society now is how split we are. I mean, our country is so divided. I don't think it's ever been this divided since probably the Civil War. And it's, one side wants to hate the president and all this kind of stuff. And it's something I mentioned earlier too. I think in our society too, where so many people are so self-centered, and like if they make a mistake or something goes wrong, they want to blame somebody else for it. But I'm also amazed when I see there's a lot of great people in this country too, that's not about themselves. They want to help other people, and
There's a lot of good in the world still.
there is.
It's
There
pretty
is.
amazing.
But it's amazing though, like when you're watching any kind of news or anything, it's always focused on the really bad, negative stuff. And like you said earlier, they don't really report the news anymore. I remember as a kid, we used to watch Walter Cronkite, and what Walter Cronkite said, we just believed and took it for granted it was true. And now everybody's got to research. And the stuff they research doesn't even tell them the truth either, But I just believe that there is a lot of good in the world, and I really believe it's true that a lot of Christian people say that Jesus is the answer, and I believe that, and I think the farther we've gotten away from Jesus, the worse our society has gotten, and then when you look at the church, religion doesn't do anything for you. It's a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, and when I'm preaching all right. I mean, when you have someone that loved you so much that died on the cross for you, but was powerful enough to be risen from the dead, and then he loves you so much that he sits at the right hand of the Creator and makes intercession for you. I want somebody like that on my side, and I think the problem with our society is people don't really know who Jesus is anymore because they don't see it in enough people. They just see it's a religious thing.
Well, I feel like the media is very biased, and they only show the really negative parts of religion, because there's a lot of negative, and they only show like the mega preachers that are driving around $1 million cars and stuff, and that's it's really not typical. They don't really show the typical preacher like you, who you still work, your church is fairly small, and you're not rolling in the dough from that's not what the point of your ministry is. It's not about money.
But you can hardly stand to watch Christian TV because all they talk about is money.
Yeah.
And if you're giving your money to me, you're giving it to God. That's crazy. That's just nuts. And in our church, we have a very small church, but the money that we get, we usually give it away to help somebody that really needs it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the truth of it. It's not about in life what you receive, it's what you give away.
Right.
I heard somebody say not too long ago, it's not what you gather, it's what you scatter. And I think that's so true. And I like I've said before, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, but I've tried to dedicate my life to finish well, and that's all I can do. That's all I can do. But our society is in for it's going to be terrible if some of these people get their way. I mean, socialism does not work. We got all these socialists coming up, and it's going to be. I'm glad I'm as old as I am. Put it that way.
Yeah, you might miss some of it. Hopefully not. Okay. So this kind of goes with the other question a little bit. Is what do you miss most about the old days, the good old days, when milk was 5 cents and the stuff you used to tell us?
I remember my mom. I would say, "Mom, can I have $1?" And she had like 20 purses on the floor someplace in her bedroom. And she said, "Yeah, just go get my purse." And by the time I got back with the right purse, I earned my $1. And it was amazing, though. We could put $1 worth of gas in a car, and we could drive all night long. And we could go to the restaurant to buy a hamburger, fries, and a milkshake, and have 10 cents left over.
Do that for 90 cents?
We could do that for 90 cents. And I just think that, like when I went to school, I'm sure people got bullied and made fun of. I did a little bit when I was really younger, but like in high school, I never saw any of that stuff. I didn't see people getting bullied and made fun of. It seemed like everybody in the school was part of our group. We didn't say, you go that way and you go that way, and all of us athletes will go another way. We accepted everybody. We just, when we had parties or anything, everybody was invited. And that's just the way we operated, and you don't see that anymore. And back in the day, we had a hangout. We used to hang out downtown at the Riverview Cafe, and that's where everybody went. You didn't even see kids go out and do anything. Not in Necedah. I don't know how it is in Austin, but...
Well, 16 degrees here right now, so...
Yeah, but even, and then we had, in Necedah, we had the beach we hung out at, and everybody went down there swimming, and we all got together, and I just don't think there's that togetherness like it used to be. And of course, I'm going to be 50 years out of high school pretty soon this year, but it just seemed to be so much different.
There was a beach here?
Yeah, I should show it to you now. There's trees growing in the middle of it.
Oh, I never knew.
Yeah.
We used to just jump off the trestle into the Yellow River when I was in
Yeah,
school.
we jumped off the bridge a little bit too, and yeah, we did the trestle thing. Yeah, but that was where everybody could go because the little kids could wait out there a little ways.
Oh. Okay, 2 more questions. One is, what advice would you give your 40-year-old self? Like, knowing what you know now, would you?
40-year-old self?
Yeah.
Well, let's see.
I know it was a long time ago, Dad, that 40,
Yes.
but.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it'd be a 40-year-old thing, but I guess that's too. That goes back to young. But the 3 things that we learned and what we are challenged with. Well, that's 12. But I'll say it anyway. Is what you choose as a profession, who you choose to spend your life with, and what will you do with Jesus. And I would advise anyone that's 40 years old that's struggling in life with happiness is to give Jesus a try, because this Jesus thing is real. And the Bible says He's the way, the truth, and the life. And it's, again, like I said earlier, it's not about being religious. It's about having a relationship with God. And He can work all things out if we just trust Him. If we trust Him. And if you're 40 years old, spend more time with your kids. Be with your kids more. Love them. Love your wife. And again, realize that your life isn't all about you. It's all about helping other people. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good. And that kind of answered the other question a little bit too. About the last one was, what do you wish you had made more time for? Over the years. Like, looking back, were there things that maybe you feel like you should have done more of, that you were just too busy at the time?
I think when I was a good father, I was a really good father. But I think when I was doing things that well, I did spend a lot of time
You
with
did
my
spend
kids
a lot of time with us when we were little.
When you were little, and then I got into some things that I shouldn't have, and I broke some hearts along the way. But spending time with your kids and sharing who you are with them is so very important. And another thing is if you got younger kids, you can't be afraid to discipline them, because there has to be consequence for bad behavior. And sometimes kids these days don't find out that consequence for bad behavior until they're handcuffed or in jail. And I don't say you should beat them or anything like that, but you got to let them know what's wrong and what's right.
Yeah, that's true. It's really hard being a parent. That's something I didn't understand until I had my own kids. That's the hardest thing you can do, and I think kids feel like your parents should be perfect, and it just doesn't work that way. Like, when your kids are born, this magic wand isn't waved. You're like, okay, you're perfect now, and it's really difficult.
The thing of it is, though, if you're not showing your kids how to live a good life, you're not being a good parent. And you got to love them without condition. And if you don't discipline them, that's really not love either, because you're letting them get away with stuff, and then that becomes a way of life for them, and
right.
It just doesn't work. But
That was my last question. Do you have a close?
close.
Or another question? Is there another question I should have asked you that I didn't?
I don't think so. I'd like to just tell you right now that I'm really sorry for the times that I made you wait at the door for me to come home and didn't show up when I was supposed to show up. And
It's okay, Dad. I understand. I don't even think about those days anymore. I can't dwell on the past.
Yeah.
It'll kill you.
Well, it's sad.
Die inside when you dwell on stuff like that.
But it's like I tell people in our church, when the way the Lord looks at it is, when we accept Him as Lord and Savior, He takes care of our past. And we don't know what the future holds. So all we can do is take care of it right now. And like I said, I made lots of mistakes. And the things that hurt me the most are the ones that still affect people today.
Right, yeah. I've done those same mistakes myself.
And, but all I can do is, like I said, is try to finish well. The analogy that I use is when I was in high school, I ran track. And we never practiced. We just went to the meets. My very first meet, I used to run the half mile. It's 2 times around the track. And I start running with these guys, and pretty soon I think these guys are running really slow. So and pretty soon I got tired, and pretty soon
you didn't pace yourself.
I didn't pace myself, and I think the first race I probably ended up last or next to last. But then I learned how to pace myself, and I don't think I ever won a race, but at the very end I kicked in, and when I got to the finish line, I had nothing left to give. And I can honestly say that when I played sports, I gave 100% of who I was. I did the best I could. And that's how I want to finish my life. I want to kick it in. And when it's time for me to be laid out to die, I want to say that I did the very best that I could. And that's all you can ask for. My mom used to tell us, give all you got because that's all you can do. Do the best you can because that's all you can do. And it's like going back to my mother. There's not a time in my life, probably a day in my life, when I don't go, oh, yeah, Mom taught me that. And I learned so much from her because she's the one that gave everything that she had to raise us kids. And I feel so bad about. I think her kids let her down before she passed away, but that's another story.
I don't think
not all of us, but some of us did.
Maybe, yeah. You never know. I think maybe people were just doing what they thought was the best at the time, and then later it was like maybe
yeah,
maybe we didn't. I don't know.
But I don't think I just can't see her sitting in her life and looking back and saying that I should have done this, I should have done that, because I think she did it all, And I'm sure there's things that she made mistakes and did wrong too, but when it came to her kids, she gave it all that she had. She told the story to me once that when my dad left, I was 6 years old, and I remember that day just like it was yesterday. Jerry came down the stairs and said the word divorce, and I never even heard the word before. But I knew exactly that my life would never be the same. And I remember chasing my dad down that long driveway we had. And he never even looked back. And I didn't see him again for 2 years. I'm 6 years old. I'm Daddy's boy. And I don't even hold that against him now. I don't. But my mom tells a story. She went into the kitchen. She never worked, never had a job before, because Dad made a pretty good living. And she poured herself a cup of coffee, and she says, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And she said, I sat there and thought of all the great times that me and your dad had together. And she was, I couldn't think of any. And she said from that time on, she knew that she could handle it. And she did. She worked in a factory, made $1.65 an hour. She worked Monday through Friday. She got off work on Friday, ran home basically, took a shower, went down and worked at a cafe Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon, and she did that every day. I don't think she ever missed work.
Wow.
And we were poor, but we didn't know we were poor because of her. I can't wait to see her again.
Me either. That's one of the things that I didn't like growing up was knowing that we were poor. I hated to hear that. I always think now, like, did we really have to know all the things that we knew? And I'm not saying that that's your fault, but it also has made me more grateful for all the stuff I have now because there were some times that we were really poor.
Yeah, we went through some difficult times, and I take my share of the blame, but I don't think it was all my fault. But that's here nor there.
All right, well, Dad, it was a pleasure. Thank you for
Chicken. I love you.
humoring one of my bright ideas again. Nobody else does. I doubt if Mom's going to let me interview her. She's already told her that I will not be speaking at her funeral when
Well,
she passed away.
don't let her see the last bit of that one.
All right.